It started with the screams. I know how that sounds, but I swear to you, I heard them. Every night around 3:17 a.m., like clockwork, they'd start. Faint at first, like a whimper behind thick concrete walls. Then they'd rise, not louder exactly, but closer, like they were moving through the floorboards, crawling toward me. The first night, I thought it was a dream. The second night, I sat up in bed and stared at the ceiling, heart pounding, hoping I'd imagined it. But by the third night, I knew something was wrong with this house. I never wanted to move here. My wife fell in love with the wraparound porch, the clawfoot tub, the way the sunlight hit the kitchen in the mornings. I only noticed the cold, not the kind you feel in your skin, but a weight in the air, a silence that pressed on your chest. And the basement felt wrong from the start. We never went down there. The realtor told us it was just a storage space, a little damp, but nothing unusual. I didn't question it, but I should have, because last Tuesday, I heard the screams coming from down there, and that's when I noticed the door. It hadn't been there before, just a slab of old, rotted wood in the far corner, half hidden behind broken shelves. A rusted iron handle, no keyhole, just the door. Silent, closed, but not still, because sometimes it breathed. I stood there for a long time that night, staring at it. The longer I looked, the more I could feel it looking back. It sounds insane, I know, but it wasn't just the door. It was everything around it. The air felt heavy, like the room was filled with water. The single light bulb overhead flickered, even though it had never done that before. I called out, "Is someone there?" My voice cracked. I felt ridiculous. Then something scratched the other side. Not an animal, not human, just scratching. Long, slow, deliberate, as if whatever was inside knew I was there and wanted me to hear it. I should have walked away. I should have run. But I didn't, because in that moment I needed to know. I needed to know what was behind that door. And deep down, I think it needed me to find it. That was the night everything changed, though I didn't know it yet. We bought the house because it was cheap. Too cheap. You'd think that would have been a red flag, right? A 6-bedroom Victorian in a good neighborhood, priced nearly half of everything else on the block. The listing said motivated seller. My wife said it was fate. I just said yes because she smiled at me like she used to when we first met. The first week we moved in, it was like we were playing house. She baked. I worked in the study. We even had friends over for dinner. The place looked nice on the surface. But every time I was alone, I'd catch something out of place. A light left on that I'd turned off. Footsteps when no one else was home. Once, I found the basement door open, even though I was sure I'd locked it. But it was the cold that got to me the most. It didn't matter what room I was in. There was always this low chill in the air, like the walls were exhaling. We brought in HVAC guys, electricians. No one found anything wrong. One night, I woke up and found my wife standing at the basement door. Just standing, eyes open, barefoot on the hardwood. When I asked her what she was doing, she turned and said, "They're not ready yet." Then she went back to bed like nothing had happened. She didn't remember it in the morning. I started keeping notes. Dates. Times. Weird occurrences. I thought maybe I was losing it. So I bought a camera. Just a cheap one off Amazon. I set it up in the living room, pointed toward the hallway that led to the basement. The next morning, the footage showed me getting up at 2:43 a.m. and walking downstairs. But I never left my bed. I watched myself walk to the basement door. I stood there for 10 minutes. Then I whispered something into the crack, where the door met the floor. The audio was garbled, but I swear to you, I said, "I'm listening." After that night, The screams started. Then came the flies. Hundreds of them. In the middle of January, they gathered around the basement door, thick and buzzing like static. I vacuumed them up, sprayed, sealed every crack I could find. They came back the next day. My wife started getting sick. At first, just tired all the time. Then migraines. Then she began hearing voices. At least, that's what she told me. I'd come home to find her sitting in the kitchen, whispering into her cupped hands like she was holding something. She kept asking me the same question. Do you think it remembers? I didn't know what she meant. I still don't. We called a priest. Not for a blessing. We're not religious. But because I was desperate. He came by, walked the house, looked unsettled the moment he stepped inside. When he reached the basement, he didn't go down. Just stood at the top of the stairs, staring. Then he looked at me and said, "You need to leave." That was it. No explanation. He left and didn't return my calls after that. Still, we stayed. I don't know why. Maybe I thought I could fix it. Maybe I was just too afraid of what would happen if we left. Because by then, it had changed. The house, the sounds, the feeling that we were being watched wasn't just paranoia anymore. It had a rhythm, a presence. The walls had started to pulse. Sometimes I'd hear my own voice echoing through the halls, repeating things I'd never said. Once, I found muddy footprints leading from the basement to our bedroom. Neither of us owned boots. I stopped sleeping. I began locking the basement door every night and wedging a chair under the knob. But in the morning, the chair would be on the other side of the hall. My wife started painting. She hadn't touched a brush in years. Her first painting was of the basement door. The second was of me, standing in front of it, smiling. I wasn't smiling when she showed it to me. Her third painting was black, completely black. She called it the arrival. That's when I knew we were in trouble. Real trouble. Because whatever was behind that door, it wasn't content with just being heard anymore. It wanted to be seen. And more than that, it wanted out. The house wasn't haunted. That would have been easier to accept. This was something older. Something patient. It had waited long enough. And we had just made it welcome. That day, when I tried to leave the house, the front door wouldn't open. Not stuck. Not jammed. It was like the air had thickened. Like the house itself held me there. My wife stood behind me and said, "It knows now. You can't leave." I laughed. I actually laughed. And then I cried. Because deep down I believed her. And that was before the whispers started coming from inside the walls. The walls spoke in fragments. Broken phrases. Old words. Sometimes in English. Sometimes in something I couldn't understand. But always in voices I recognized. My mother. My wife. Myself. It was like the house was recording us, learning us, using us against each other. I'd hear my own voice saying things I never said. Cruel things. Violent things. And my wife, she began painting again. She wouldn't stop. Black canvases filled the room. She stopped eating. Stopped sleeping. Just painted. Her hands bled, but she didn't care. She painted the door again. But this time it was open, and something was standing in the doorway. She called it the welcome. I asked her what it meant. She looked at me and whispered, "It's almost ready." The next day, the door was breathing louder. That night, I sat alone in the hallway, facing the basement. I didn't blink. I didn't move. I just listened. The door was breathing, louder than ever. And beneath that sound, something else. It was laughing. The whispers began 3 nights after the painting of the welcome. At first, I thought they were just dreams. I'd hear my name, soft and slithering, curling around the edges of my sleep. But they didn't stop when I opened my eyes. That's when I realized they weren't in my head. They were in the house. I followed the sound one night, creeping barefoot through the dark halls. The whispers were coming from the vents. Low, layered voices all speaking at once, like a broken radio tuned to 100 channels at the same time. They said things I didn't understand. Some of it wasn't English. Some of it was my name, over and over, like a chant. Some of it was laughter. And beneath it all, there was a pulse. A beat, steady and slow, like a heartbeat in the walls. I went to the basement door. It was open. Not wide, just a crack. Enough to see blackness beyond it. Not dark black, like the light refused to exist in that space. I shut the door and locked it again. Moved the chair back under the knob. When I turned around, my wife was behind me. She had paint on her hands and on her lips. She said, "You shouldn't have shut it. It was listening." She didn't remember saying that the next day. That morning, I found scratch marks along the inside of our bedroom door. Deep gouges. 5 parallel lines. Too large to be human. The wood was splintered. The carpet soaked. I asked her if she heard anything last night. She just smiled and said, "It's quieter when it's fed." She didn't eat breakfast. Neither did I. I tried calling someone, my brother, an old friend, anyone. My phone wouldn't dial out. Static filled every call. Texts vanished after I sent them. Even emails bounced back, returned as if my address no longer existed. The house had cut me off. I started sleeping in the upstairs hallway, facing the stairs. I kept a crowbar by my side. I didn't know what I was planning to do with it, but it felt better than nothing. Then, one night, the whispers turned into a voice, and it said, "Come down." That voice, it wasn't a whisper anymore. It was clear, familiar. It sounded like my father, who died when I was 17. I froze. I hadn't heard his voice in years. I should have known better, but hearing it made my knees go weak. I asked, "Dad?" Silence. "Then, please. I'm cold." I stood there in the hall, staring into the dark where the stairs curved out of sight. My hands shook. I wanted to believe it. I wanted it so badly, but I didn't move. Instead, I checked the paintings my wife had left that day. There were new ones, dozens, all of them of me, sleeping, walking, standing in front of the basement door. And one more, a close-up of my face, with eyes black and empty, mouth stretched too wide. I tore them down, every last one. She didn't even react. The voice came again the next night, different this time. My mother, then my best friend from high school, all of them asking me to come down. Every night a new voice. Every night, someone I loved. Then came the silence. No whispers. No voices. No scratching. Just silence. A thick, waiting silence that pressed into my skull. It lasted 3 days. On the 4th, my wife was gone. I searched the whole house. Every room. Every closet. Every crawl space. I even checked the attic, which we never used. Nothing. She didn't leave a note. Her phone was still on the kitchen counter. Her shoes by the door. Only one thing was different. The basement door was wide open. No darkness behind it this time. Just stairs. They were lit from below. And something was singing. Not words. Not a tune I recognized. Just this long, droning note that seemed to vibrate in my bones. I took one step toward it. Just one. And the singing stopped. Then the light went out. I slammed the door shut. Locked it. Nailed it. Screamed until my throat was raw. But she didn't come back. And that night, the house whispered her name instead of mine. I sat in our bedroom that night, surrounded by the remnants of her paintings. Torn canvas, broken frames. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I just waited. Around 3 a.m., I heard footsteps. Not creaking, not soft, heavy, deliberate. They climbed the stairs slowly, one at a time. I held my breath, listening, counting. 13 steps. Our staircase had only 12. I stood up, opened the door. The hallway was empty, but the light at the top of the stairs was off. I hadn't turned it off. That's when I noticed the shadows. Not where they should have been. They curved the wrong way, like the light source was moving, bending, breathing. I went to the basement again. I had to. The door was open. This time, I didn't shut it. I looked down the stairs and saw nothing. Just darkness. But I felt it. I felt her. My wife. I called her name. No answer. Only the silence. That thick, waiting silence again. I stood there for what felt like hours, paralyzed. Then I heard it. A single knock. From beneath the floorboards. I backed away. Step by step. That night, I didn't sleep. The next day, I got in my car. I tried to leave. The engine turned. The wheels moved. But the world outside never changed. I drove for 20 minutes and still ended up in front of my house. I tried again. Took side streets, country roads, made random turns. Every time, I came back to the front gate. The house wouldn't let me leave. I started talking to it, out loud, pleading, bargaining. I said I'd go down. Just let me see her. No answer. Until that night. I woke to find the basement door gone. Not open. Not damaged. Gone. Just a blank wall where it had been. And then on the wall, letters began to appear. Faint. Like something clawed them from the inside. You took too long. And below that in red, she belongs to us now. The day the door came back was the first time I truly understood what it meant to lose control. It appeared like it had never left. Same rotted wood, same rusted handle, same faint breathing that seemed to echo from behind it. Only this time, it wasn't tucked away in the shadows of the basement. It was in the kitchen, right there, between the fridge and the pantry. I stared at it, my heart crawling up into my throat. The light above it flickered with a rhythm that felt intentional. On, off, pause, on again. Like it was signaling. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just dropped my coffee and stepped back, slowly, as if sudden movement might wake it. But it was already awake. The air felt thick, electric. I could hear the hum of something ancient, something massive, just beyond the wood. I wanted to run, but I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe I was past fear. Maybe I just needed answers. I touched the handle. It was warm. Too warm. I yanked my hand back and it burned. Not like fire. Like ice that had been burning for hours. It left a red mark shaped like a key. The rest of the day, I sat in the living room, watching the door. It never moved. Never opened. But it felt closer. Every time I blinked, it seemed an inch nearer. That night, I dreamt of her. My wife. She was standing in front of the door, whispering things I couldn't hear. Her hands were pressed to the wood. And the door was breathing through her. Inhale, exhale, slow and steady, like they were connected. She turned to me, eyes empty, mouth open. "Help me," she said. But her voice wasn't hers. It was mine. I woke up on the floor. The door was gone again, but the mark on my hand had turned black. I checked every room in the house, every inch of wall where it might reappear. Nothing. But I knew it wasn't gone. Not really. It had moved, changed, adapted. That night, I set up cameras. 3 of them, one in the kitchen, one in the basement, one in the hallway outside our bedroom. I stayed up, pacing between them, watching the feeds on my phone. Hours passed. Midnight came and went. At exactly 3:17 a.m., all 3 cameras went black. Then one turned back on, the one in the basement. The feed showed the door, centered in the frame, like it had been waiting for its moment. I watched, frozen, as something moved behind it. A shadow. No, not a shadow. Something darker than that. It didn't walk. It flowed, shifted, pulsed. The door didn't open, but it wasn't closed either. It breathed. I swear I saw a hand press against the wood. Slender, human, familiar. Her hand. Then the feed cut out again. I ran downstairs. The basement was empty. No door. No breath. Just the cold, damp silence. But the wall where the door had appeared was warm to the touch. Vibrating. I placed my ear to it. And I heard her. Whispering. Please just listen. Then a knock. From the inside. That's when I realized the door wasn't just moving through space. It was moving through me. It knew where I was. What I feared. Who I loved. It was feeding. Over the next week, it appeared 5 more times. The bathroom mirror. The closet. The hallway. Each time, it was the same. Rotted wood, rusted handle, warmth that bit into the skin. Each time, I got closer to opening it. Once, I even placed my hand on the handle, twisted. It moved. Just a little. Enough to release a sound like a scream trapped in steel. I pulled back. The mark on my hand had spread to my forearm. I stopped going outside. There was no point. The world didn't feel real anymore. Cars passed. Birds sang. Neighbors smiled. But none of it mattered. Everything that meant anything was behind that door. Or inside me. One morning, I found a note on the fridge. A sticky note. My wife's handwriting. It said, "It's not trying to hurt you. It's trying to come home." That night, the door returned. In the middle of the living room. Wide open. I should have run. I should have screamed. But all I did was stare. The room was dead silent, except for the sound of my own breathing. And something else. A wet, clicking sound, like 1,000 insect legs tapping against wood. From inside the doorway, mist rolled out. Thick and dark, clinging to the floor, coiling around my legs. It didn't feel like fog. It felt like fingers. I called out her name. Not loud. Just enough to test the air. Something answered. Not in words. Just a noise, like a sigh dragged across broken glass. It chilled me to my bones. The door pulsed again. It didn't open wider. It didn't need to. Because the darkness inside had started leaking out, reaching toward the walls, soaking into them like water into a sponge. Then I saw her, or what was left of her. She stepped forward, slowly, 1 foot out of the doorway, then the next. Her hair hung like wet seaweed. Her skin was pale, stretched, flickering like bad video footage. Her eyes, God, her eyes. They were empty, but they saw everything. She looked right at me and smiled. "Welcome home," she said, but her mouth didn't move. The voice came from behind me. I turned. There was no one there. When I turned back around, the door was gone, and so was she. But the mist remained, and on the wall, in smeared black fingerprints, was a message. "We are almost here." I stood there until morning. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. The sun rose, but it didn't feel warm. I checked the cameras again. All 3 showed nothing but static. That night, the door didn't come back, but something else did. The laughter. Soft, childlike, distant, but growing closer. and I realized the door wasn't hiding from me. It was letting the others in. I don't remember deciding to open the door. It's like my body moved before my mind did. One moment, I was staring at the wall where the door used to be. The next, I was in the hallway, holding the handle. It had reappeared, this time at the top of the stairs, just standing there, like it had always been part of the house. My hand didn't hesitate. The door creaked open, slow and long, a sound like bone snapping underwater. Cold air rolled out, wet and sour, stinking of earth and rot. It was darker than dark inside. Not a black void, but something worse. A space that resisted light. I stepped through. Immediately, the world changed. The floor was soft, damp, breathing. I looked down and realized I wasn't standing on wood or carpet. I was standing on flesh. Walls pulsed like lungs. The air vibrated with whispers I couldn't decipher. I should have turned back, but the door was gone. Behind me, just a wall. In front of me, the hallway stretched on. Too far, too long. The ceiling dripped. The lights, if you could call them that, floated, flickering like they were underwater. Faces drifted past in the walls. Some I recognized, some I didn't. All of them staring. I walked forward. What else could I do? The deeper I went, the more I felt it. A presence. Huge. Aware. Watching. It wasn't the house. It wasn't the door. It was the thing behind it. And it knew me. It knew everything. My name. My thoughts. My fears. My wife. She was waiting at the end of the hall. Naked. Pale. Her eyes were completely black now, but they still cried. Thick, inky tears streamed down her face. She opened her mouth, and my voice came out. Why did you take so long? I tried to speak, but my throat closed. Not from fear. Something was inside it. Crawling. Slithering. I gagged, fell to my knees, and coughed up a thin thread of black liquid that vanished before it hit the floor. She stepped closer, barefoot, but there was no sound. Her feet didn't touch the ground so much as hover above it. She reached out and touched my cheek, and for a moment, I felt warmth. Her warmth. A memory of better days. The way she touched me in the morning, just before getting out of bed. Then it turned to fire. Her fingers burned against my skin, not from heat, but something worse, recognition. I felt her pain, her fear, her transformation, and then I saw it. Not behind her, not around her, inside her. It blinked. One enormous eye, nestled in her chest, slowly opened and locked onto me. No iris, just black. And in that blackness, I saw images. 1,000 doors, 1,000,000 hallways, an endless network of tunnels and lungs and mouths. Screaming, always screaming. And something at the center, something massive and patient, coiled in silence. It had many names, none I can speak. It feeds on memories, lives, choices. It doesn't kill. It consumes meaning. I stumbled back, but the hallway pulsed and pushed me forward, like a throat swallowing. I reached for the walls, but they pulled away, elastic and alive. She followed me. Why did you wait? She asked again. I screamed finally. Raw, broken sound. And the world listened. The hallway cracked. Light, sickly and red, spilled through the fractures. Not light like sunlight. This was something alien, something wrong. It didn't illuminate. It exposed. The flesh beneath my skin wriggled. I felt something inside me awaken. Then came the noise. A deep, wet roar that came from everywhere at once. The walls trembled. The floor buckled. Something massive was moving just beneath the surface, coiling, shifting. I ran. I don't remember how long. Time didn't make sense, but the more I ran, the more the place changed. Rooms opened off the hallway, filled with impossible things. A nursery with cribs full of teeth. A kitchen where the table wept blood. A library where books screamed when I looked at them. I slammed each door shut behind me, but they didn't stay closed. They followed. Whispers. Hands. Eyes that blinked without lids. Every fear I'd ever buried crawled out and chased me. And at the heart of it all, the door. Another one. Not the same, but familiar. This one was open wide, and beyond it, a spiral staircase that led down. Always down. I hesitated. Then I heard her again. This time behind me. Don't go. I turned. She stood there, broken, hollow, still crying those black tears. I can't hold it much longer. What is it? I asked, but I already knew. She pointed to the door. It wants you to finish. Then she collapsed. I ran to her, held her. Her skin was ice. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. I leaned in, and she whispered, "You were always the key." That's when the floor cracked beneath us, and we fell. We plunged into a pit of writhing darkness, weightless and heavy all at once. No wind, no light, only the sensation of being swallowed by a thought too big to comprehend. Then we landed softly, like settling into a memory. We were in a room, round, featureless, no walls, just shifting gray mist. But in the center stood a pillar, stone, ancient, covered in carvings I couldn't read, but felt in my bones. My wife was gone again. I approached the pillar. As I got closer, the carvings shifted, became images. My life, every choice, every mistake, every lie I told. It knew me. It had always known me. A voice filled the space. Not hers. Not mine. Just voice. You opened the door. Now you must close it. How? I asked. Remember. It showed me everything. The first moment I ignored the basement. The first time I heard the scream and stayed in bed. The first time I saw the door and walked away. It wasn't punishing me. It was completing me. I was never meant to leave. I was meant to become. The pillar cracked. The mist turned red. And in that final moment, I saw it all clearly. The door wasn't a passage. It was a mirror. And I was already on the other side. I don't know how long I was unconscious. Time didn't feel real down there. When I woke, the stone pillar was gone. The mist had thickened into something solid. It clung to my skin, humming softly, as if it were alive and listening. I stood slowly. My body hurt in ways I didn't have words for, like parts of me had been reassembled in the wrong order. I tried to speak, but no sound came. Only breath, and even that felt borrowed. Then I heard it, the scream. Not from the walls, not from my wife, from beneath me. It started low, like a hum stretched through a tunnel. Then it climbed, higher, sharper, until it wasn't just sound. It was pressure, thought, pain. I dropped to my knees, covering my ears, but it didn't help. The scream was inside me, vibrating my bones, rattling memories loose. Images flashed in my head. Eyes, teeth, 1,000 doors opening at once. People falling into nothing. Voices crying for help in languages I didn't know, but understood all the same. I crawled forward, unsure what else to do. The mist parted, and there it was. The thing behind the screams. It didn't have a shape, not really. It was shifting, like smoke and shadow stitched into a form my brain couldn't process. But its presence, God, its presence, was like standing in the center of a thunderstorm. Every thought replaced by the instinct to kneel. It didn't speak. It just stared. And I knew, without words, what it wanted. It didn't want blood. It didn't want fear. It wanted worship. All this time, the house, the door, the voices, it was never about torment. It was about devotion, obedience, submission. It had chosen me, and I think I was starting to choose it back. I stood in that shifting chamber, face to face with something no human was ever meant to see. It had no eyes, but I felt its gaze pierce every layer of me. My skin itched, peeled, repaired itself, and itched again. The room pulsed like a heart. Its walls expanded and contracted, oozing moisture that glistened with a sickly sheen. It smelled of copper and smoke, and something deeper, something primal, like the inside of a forgotten cave. I stepped forward. The floor writhed beneath me, but I didn't fall. It supported me, encouraged me, welcomed me. I whispered her name, my wife's name, into the fog, and the creature trembled. It remembered her. She was still part of it, bound to it, perhaps willingly. It reached toward me, not with limbs, but with memory. Flashes of her, smiles, laughs, tears. The day we met, the first fight we had, her voice in the morning, asking if I wanted coffee. And then her voice again, this time from inside me. It doesn't have to hurt. I fell to my knees. I didn't cry. There were no tears left. Just awe. Terrifying, reverent awe. The entity drifted closer. Every second it moved, the room changed. Time fractured. I saw my past flicker across the walls. I saw myself as a child, afraid of the dark. I saw my own death, sitting in a chair, aged and hollow, whispering to a door no one else could see. And then I saw the future, or what it wanted the future to be. A world with no light, no silence, just doors, endless doors, and behind each one, a voice waiting to be heard. It offered me something, understanding, a way to see the world through its eyes, not as a man, as a vessel. I reached out. My fingers didn't touch it. They passed through. And in that moment, I felt everything. Every scream, every soul, every desperate prayer. It fed on worship because it had been forgotten, abandoned, but it had never left. It had been waiting, and now that it had been heard again, it would never be silent. The room shook. A low rumble, like the start of an earthquake. The mist whipped into a frenzy, spiraling upward into a vortex of sound and motion. I was lifted off the ground, held aloft by force alone. My limbs stretched. My mind broke and reformed and broke again. I saw stars. Not the ones in the sky, but stars behind the stars. Things that watched us from the beginning. Ancients. Sleeping. Dreaming. Hungry. It was one of them. Or a servant. Or maybe just a whisper of something worse. Then I was falling. The chamber collapsed inward, folding like paper soaked in ink. The creature screamed, not in pain, but in joy. It was awake. And it was free. I landed in my living room. Hardwood beneath me. Sofa to my left. Television static on the screen. Morning sun pouring through the window like nothing had ever happened. But I knew better. The mark on my hand was gone. In its place, a circle of symbols, pulsing faintly beneath the skin. The door was gone. But in its place, on every wall, every surface, in the corners of mirrors and the hum of appliances, I could still hear it. The scream. Quieter now, but closer. And I knew then that I hadn't escaped. I had been changed. I got up and walked to the mirror. My reflection stared back, but it wasn't me. Not entirely. My eyes were deeper, darker. Not black, but not mine either. Like something else was peering through. My mouth curved in a smile I didn't feel. Behind me, for just a second, the door appeared in the mirror, and I swear it winked. The lights flickered, and from the ceiling above me, faint and rhythmic, came a familiar sound. Breathing. I don't know what I am now, but I'm not afraid anymore, because I understand. The screams were never warnings. They were invitations, and I've already answered. People ask why I don't leave the house, why I don't sell it, burn it down, run. They don't understand. I can't. Not because I'm trapped, but because it's part of me now. Leaving would be like tearing off my own skin. I tried once. Packed a bag. Walked out the door. Made it 3 blocks before the screaming started again. Not from the house, but from inside me. It felt like dying. Like every nerve was on fire. I stumbled back through the front door, and the pain stopped instantly. The house welcomed me. Lights on. Warm air. The smell of her perfume. Faint and impossible. I think it forgave me. I don't dream anymore. Not like I used to. Now I visit places. Places like that room with the pillar. Like the Hall of Doors. I see others, too. People like me. Broken. Chosen. They smile. We nod. We listen. Sometimes I still hear her. My wife. But not always in words. In emotions. In memories. In urges I can't explain. I keep the front door locked now. Not because I'm afraid of what might come in, but because I know what might try to get out. You're probably wondering why I'm telling you all this. Maybe it's a warning. Maybe it's a confession. Or maybe it's an invitation. The scream is quieter now, but it's never gone. And if you ever find a door where it shouldn't be, don't open it. Unless, of course, you're ready to listen. Because once you hear it, you'll never forget it. And once it hears you, you're already home. Like, subscribe, and whatever you do, don't answer the door after midnight. I used to think horror was something you could explain, something you could fight. You'd bring a priest, light some candles, say a few words and be done. But you can't fight something that isn't trying to kill you. You can't fight something that just wants to be heard. That's what it wants, really. Not chaos, not destruction, just acknowledgement, a place in your mind, a permanent corner of your soul. The door wasn't a curse. It was a conversation, and I answered. Some nights, I hear new voices, not hers, others, people who found their own doors. I think they're trying to talk to me. Or maybe I'm supposed to guide them. Maybe that's part of the deal. I've started writing them down. The voices. What they say. Sometimes it's nonsense. Sometimes it's prophecy. Names. Dates. Places I've never been. But then I see them on the news. A missing person. A fire. A storm that shouldn't have happened. And I know. The house shows me what's coming. It shows me what it wants me to see. I'm not sure if that makes me lucky or damned. I can't die. I've tried. Slit wrists. Pills. Even stood on the edge of the roof once. Each time, the house catches me. Heals me. Brings me back. Because it needs me. I'm its anchor. I don't cry anymore. Not because I'm strong, but because there's nothing left to mourn. My old life is gone, and in its place is something vast, unknowable, but strangely beautiful. There's order in this madness, a rhythm, a logic only the door understands, and I'm starting to understand it too. So no, I won't leave, because this is my home now, and maybe if you're lucky, or unlucky enough, you'll find your way here too. Just listen for the scream. And follow it. Not everyone hears it. But if you do, you'll understand. And once you do, you'll never be alone again.